Hello students. In this lecture, I want to talk about several issues relating environmental awareness. We are all talking about environment today. We are often concerned about air pollution, water pollution, and several other issues. However, there are some specific issues about which we do not talk enough or do not think enough. Let me give you a few examples. I'll first refer to some global examples, and in particular examples from Canada, where I presently live, and then give some specific examples for Indian conditions. In Canada, in last few years, there has been an awareness about increasing collection of empty cans, empty bottles, and what to do about it. So in last few years, many city governments have introduced plans by which each and every resident of houses or apartment dwellers are required to collect these empty cans, waste newspapers, empty bottles, and put them outside. And these are then collected on a weekly basis by city officials or their employees, and then they are taken to some places and they are either recycled or totally destroyed. I think this is an important issue because, as you can imagine, our society is becoming more and more industrialized, more and more use of consumer products are increasing, and as a result, this environmental degradation, as I call it, is increasing, and it is very important to consider how we can eliminate or reduce this environmental degradation. I think I have often felt that many of us living in India do not give enough thought about this environmental degradation for a variety of reasons. Our lifestyle, for example, is one that often induces these activities, and we rarely think about it. Let me give you one specific example. One of the common lifestyles in India is eating betel nut, pan, and tobacco. And as we do it, we inadvertently spit it out as we walk in the streets, or even as we are either walking in some buildings and so on. Personally, I think these are rather distasteful habits, but more than that, I think these cause significant environmental degradation, and there is a serious need, in my opinion, for people to think about it and try to find out ways of reducing this degradation. One might ask, okay, what can we do about it? I think one of the simpler ways, or perhaps a drastic way, would be to change our lifestyle. But it is not easy to do. It is probably impossible to say to Indians, stop eating pan or stop chewing tobacco. No, I think so we cannot do that. So I think the second perhaps way to go about would be to discourage people from spitting out soon after they have consumed either pan or tobacco or both. In addition, perhaps we could encourage various city governments, local governments to provide suitable means of disposing this spit at various public places. I think, in my opinion, this is important because these spitting can create not just environmental degradation, but it can create some disastrous effects, health hazards to society in which all live. Another serious aspect of Indian living is presence of human and animal waste in public places and on roads. I fully realize various societal problems that India has, there is a large population of India which does not have adequate facilities of sanitation or toilets. However, it does not mean that we should allow or encourage or not do anything about human or animal waste on roadside or in public places. I believe something can be done. I think there are some examples or some techniques that are being used at present. For example, composting. This is a very useful procedure by which animal or even human waste can be collected and put to some use. More importantly, in my opinion, there should be an awareness of the fact that human and animal waste in public places is an environmental degradation. It can be hazardous to human health. And if you as students can give more thought as to how we can eliminate or reduce this human waste and put it to some better use, I think it would provide some new directives to improve our society of the present generation. Extending this aspect into another area of environmental pollution, I would like to talk about noise pollution. We often mention about it, we often talk about it occasionally, but we rarely do anything about it. For example, on streets in most big cities in India, it is common to hear honking of cars, screeching of brakes, and loud noises of trucks and truck horns. I have lived in Canada for a long time. I have traveled in many countries in Europe and elsewhere, and I find it very discomforting whenever I visit India to hear honking of horns continuously going on as soon as I step on the road. I do not often find any reason for this honking. Perhaps it has become our lifestyle. In last few years, as I understand, a lot of car traffic has increased. More and more professionals and people working in various places now own their cars and either drive their cars. Also, taxi drivers and truck drivers are more and more in numbers on various roads in big cities in India. However, they seem to follow a certain lifestyle with which they have grown for so long. For example, trying to alert a pedestrian by honking. There is no real reason for them to do so. I think giving horn or honking can be very annoying and irritating, and I believe there is a need to try to discourage this habit. Noise pollution may not sound like a very serious situation, but in reality, when you think about it, it can be very irritating, and especially people with weakness of certain mental conditions, this can be very debilitating and it can be hazardous to their life. A few other examples of noise pollution, especially relating to Indian conditions, is our fondness for use of firecrackers for a number of festival or festivities. We often seem to indulge in this. There is nothing wrong in indulging in firecrackers and enjoying the fun, but I think we must think more about it and try to limit the use of it. Either we should do it in some public places like parks or some specially reserved areas, and not do it on every small or big road and which could become hazardous to pedestrians and to others who are walking on the street. The number of speakers and public address systems that I find people are often using on various occasions, sometimes as a simple excuse for some holiday events or some public events like birthdays of some well-known celebrities, and we have some loud music going on the street or on some restaurants, and I believe there is a need to curtail some of these activities and do these activities more generously or more cautiously so that others are not disturbed by it. I urge you, all of you, to think more about it and try to find out ways and means of reducing this unnecessary noise pollution from our streets in this case. Let me now go to a few other examples of environmental awareness and some of the other aspects of environment in which we all live. I think one of the areas of my particular interest is natural disasters and management of it. Among natural disasters, some of the most important disasters that we are all aware of are earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and occasional tsunamis in the oceans. Perhaps the most recent example for India and Southeast Asia was the disastrous tsunami that struck on 26th of December 2004, killing probably about 200,000 people in various countries adjoining Indian Ocean and Bay of Bengal. It is understood and it is realized that scientists are not able to predict the occurrence of tsunami well ahead of time. However, there are now techniques available by which there is a possibility of warning systems to be provided to residents living in the nearby coastal regions for the oncoming of huge tidal waves as a result of seismic activity at various locations at ocean floor. For example, during the Indian tsunami, soon after its occurrence, about early morning hours somewhere in Indonesian island, there was a possibility of providing warning system to places as far away as Sri Lanka, southern India, and parts of Thailand. If these warning systems were provided to the local authorities, it was possible that several hundred or perhaps several thousand lives could have been spared. However, I think at present some efforts are being made through international organization to set up specific warning systems against tsunami occurrences in the Bay of Bengal and in the Indian Ocean areas. I hope these activities continue, and I would like you students to take more interest in this subject and learn more about how tsunamis occur, how these waves that follow the tsunami are traveling in various parts of the world, and how rapidly they can sometimes approach the coastal areas and can devastate the coastal lands. Besides tsunami and earthquake, there are natural disasters that I would like to talk about. The most important of these are cyclones like in Bay of Bengal. In Europe and North America, especially in North America, hurricanes during the hurricane season, which are nothing but tropical cyclones on a much larger scale. Now these cyclones can be very disastrous. If they struck coastal areas, they can cause lot of damage to the coastal areas, including large number of fatalities. A few other examples of environmental awareness that I would like to talk about are environmental or air pollution and, by extension, acid rain. I think we all talk about air pollution. In many countries in North America and Europe, there are now stringent measures to curtail air pollution. Many cities are now have directives to stop certain industries from functioning if it is found that the pollution level is going significantly high. In India, I have found that in many big cities, the air pollution level is often significantly higher than acceptable level. However, very little is done about it. I would like to encourage you students to learn more about air pollution and to find out how it can be possible to encourage city officials to monitor these air pollution indices at various locations in busy places in city centers and try to avoid such increasing incidences of pollution. Very often these pollution levels are related to weather patterns. There are certain weather patterns which cause increased air pollution. I would like you students to learn more about these weather patterns and to find out under which conditions air pollution instances are increased and how it is possible to reduce this air pollution by providing warning to people as well as providing directives to industries that are located in the nearby places and encouraging them to stop polluting atmospheric environment. An extension of air pollution is acid rain. Acid rain is the result of industrialization of big or small cities. Because of heavy industrialization, our natural rain that we see coming from the skies, as we call it, is now more contaminated with acid. Our rains have become more acidic than what it was, say, 25 or 30 years ago. So what does this acid rain do? This acid rain is harmful to humans as well as to societies as well as to marine and other animals. For example, lot of fresh waters in various parts of the world are now found to be decaying or even dying as a result of acid rain. By that I mean many of these freshwater lakes do not have any living organism anymore, no fish or no plankton. Primarily because the acid levels of these fresh water has increased so much because of continuous falling of acidic rain on these lakes that fish can no longer survive on these lakes. Elsewhere, big forests and trees are adversely affected because of acid rain. For India, one of the most glaring examples of acid rain is the degeneration of the precious marble stone of Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal is one of the world's most attractive monuments, and millions of tourists every year come to see Taj Mahal. But it is very unfortunate to realize that in last 20-25 years, because of some industrial development in the vicinity of Taj Mahal, and as a result of this industrial development, increased amount of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere, resulting into increasing in acidic levels of these rains, have slowly but surely degenerated the precious marble stone with which Taj Mahal was so carefully built by Shah Jahan some 350 years ago. I think in the world at present, a lot of attention is being paid to the environment in which we humans live. It is important that we protect this environment and we make our life more healthy and more livable.